There's a writer named Arwa Mardawi, I think for The Guardian or something, and somebody called her out for two of her statements, both of them in writing. One of them, she said, "Men are less likely to wear masks, another sign that toxic masculinity kills." But not long after that, she said, "If women are hesitant about the vaccine, it's because the health industry hasn't earned their trust." That's right. If men ignore science, there's something wrong with men. But if women ignore science, there's something wrong with science. This is an actual opinion of a real living human. Now, do you see the observer problem? That's a phrase you're going to hear a lot. The observer problem is, maybe it's the observer who's the problem, if you know what I mean. And so let me ask you this. If narcissism is a mental illness, as we've all been told, why is wokeness not? Because if you have, let's say there are two kinds of narcissism I've learned recently. The grandiose narcissism is the one we always talk about, where you think you're better than other people, etc. Now, I don't think it exists. It's not a real thing, in my opinion. There's a longer description of that. But here's the thing. I learned yesterday also that the people who have that narcissism are more successful and happier than other people. Is it really a mental illness if you're more successful and happier? Because I thought the whole mental illness idea was that you're less happy and or less successful. Isn't that kind of built into mental illness? So you see the observer problem. Let me give it to you this way. Let's say you're chewing your food and you're near somebody who doesn't mind hearing you chew food, because you can always hear it a little bit. But other people are really, really bothered by you chewing food. Who has the mental illness? The person who is chewing, just eating, normally. They're not chewing loudly, they're just eating. Do they have a mental illness? Or does the person who's bothered by it to the point where they can't even be in the room have the mental illness? Well, you'd say that's the person who's bothered by it, right? But why is it with narcissism that the person who's perfectly happy, just like the person who's eating and chewing, minding nobody's business, perfectly happy, why did they have the mental problem, but the person whose life is being ruined by it, because they can't stand this person, they can't work with them, they can't be around it, just like the chewing? Why is it that the person observing it isn't the one with the mental illness? Because they have all the problems. See where I'm going on this? You can't separate the observer from the observed. The observer is the sick one. All right? So that's my main thing about narcissism. Apparently there's another kind of narcissism where you don't think you're wonderful. That's, you have more of a victim mentality, but that's a different kind. That surely exists, at least in terms of the symptoms are real. All right, there's part of me that's wondering if all mental illness, and here's where I'll really get in trouble. There's part of me that wonders if all mental illness is about whether you think you can control your reality or not. Whether you think you can control your reality or not. Now, I've only thought about this for a few minutes, so I'm not trying to debunk any mental health people. So I'm not disagreeing with anybody. I'm just sort of putting it out there. I notice a commonality among, and I'm not going to say all mental illness, that would be crazy, but I'm wondering if a lot of mental illness comes down to whether you think the world is controlling you or you control the world. Now, I'm not saying that either one of them is true. It is not true that the world controls you, and it's not true that you control the world. There's an interplay there. But I wake up every day believing I control the world. And I feel as though I have tremendous mental health. Because every day I wake up and say, well, if that's a problem, I can change that. If I made that mistake, I can change that. If I'm not good enough, I can get better. I have a complete sense that I can control the world. Now imagine if you thought that people were after you and they could hurt you and people have said bad things about you and you can't handle your... I feel like, obviously there's an organic part to mental illness. It's not just, you're not just thinking your way into it. But I got a feeling that a lot of it would go into that category of whether or not you can control, you feel you can control your life, whether it's true or not. People of faith believe God is the controller. That is an excellent point. Thank you, commenter Carol. I do think that it's useful to put your sense of control in a third party. And I think that that's one of the things that religion does really well. Independent of what's real and what's not real in your religious belief, it's just a good technique to imagine that control is with this friendly character who's got your best interest in mind. I think that's good for good mental health too. I think religion is an excellent technique, no matter what you think about the reality of it. So, anyway, let's talk about wokeness again. Here's the definition of mental illness. Significant changes in your thinking, emotion, and or behavior. Would you say that the people who became woke had significant changes in their thinking and emotions? I think so. Would you say that the wokeness people are distressed or they have a problem functioning in society because of their wokeness philosophy? I would say so. So, if wokeness has all the characteristics of mental health, meaning it's bad for you, why is that not a mental illness? But narcissism, the grandiose type, is literally good for you and makes you happy and more successful, and that's considered a mental illness? Now you can see it, right? It's the observer problem. It's the observer who has the problem, not the observed. All right. That is what I wanted to say today, and I think I'll end it early so that YouTube does not crap out on me, which is going to be probably in the next minute, I think. So I'm going to shut you down on YouTube and say thanks for watching, and we'll do more tomorrow. And you Periscopers are still here because you still have some electricity. Who defines wokeness? Well, I would say that wokeness is a victim mindset. Right? So as I understand it, the one form of narcissism where you have a victim mindset sounds a lot like that. So I'm not sure that wokeness would be considered much different from what is the other kind of narcissism? There's another vulnerable narcissism, I think. Why is it crapping out? Oh, I just forgot to charge my other iPad, so my YouTube electricity will run out in a minute. Somebody says depression is inability to take action. One of the questions I have about depression is, again, there are all types of it, and there's the real kind that is different from just having a bad day. But I wonder to what extent depression could be fixed by having more energy. Because have you ever been in a bad mood when your energy was high? I feel like if you could fix everybody's energy level, that it wouldn't fix all mental illness, obviously, but I think everybody would be better, better off. All right. Now, the other thing is, I get called a narcissist literally every day, which is a weird part of my life. And I'm always confused by it, because if you said to describe yourself, I would say, well, I'm a person who is really good at this small set of things, and I can demonstrate that I'm really good at them with numbers, such as, I'm good at writing a book because I have best-selling books. Is that narcissistic? Or is that just the data says I must be good at this because I sell a lot of books? So there's a small set of things that I know I am good at, and I can objectively observe it, with objective data. And then there's this gigantic list of things I'm terrible at, even simple things. Putting things on calendars, remembering my schedule, directions. I'm terrible with geography, even in the town I live in, just finding my way across town, terrible at it. And I could make a really long list of the things that I'm not good at, and even if I tried hard, probably still wouldn't be good at it, right? You know, a lot of sports that I wouldn't be good at no matter what I did. So what does it mean to be a narcissist? If you believe you're good at some things which you can objectively prove you're good at, and you're bad at a far larger list of things, even with important things on that list, how is that narcissistic? Do you see that this is the observer problem again? It's the observer who doesn't hear me say I'm bad at this long list of things, who only hears me talk about one thing. And yesterday there was somebody who was quite angry because I had referred to myself in a video yesterday as a famous cartoonist, I think more than once. Now, in the context of what I was talking about yesterday, it was necessary for context, if anybody didn't know my day job, that I'm a famous cartoonist. It was just part of the story. And somebody was really, really turned off by that, like really had a bad reaction to that. But is there anybody who doubts the objective fact that I'm a famous cartoonist? How is that my problem? Because she thought I was a narcissist specifically. Why is it my problem that I simply told you what my job is and you can observe that I'm famous? You could Google it. You would find quite a bit about me. But so this woman was having a mental distress because my actions of just saying what my job was caused her mental distress to the point where she needed to leave me a comment and then tell me she didn't want to watch me anymore or whatever she said. Wasn't that a mental problem on her part? And she was pretty sure the mental problem was on my part. Again, it's the observer problem. The observer is the one with the mental illness. I was sitting here quite happy while she was criticizing me, having a good day. How is it my mental problem that I'm having a good day, gaining an audience, making money? See what I mean? All right. So ask yourself, is it really the other person who is the problem? That is your lesson for the day. And you should also know that narcissism can be a tool in the sense that overconfidence can be useful. I intentionally try to be overconfident on things that I know I can do pretty well at, but I'd like to do really well. Like I'd like to perform well. So building up my confidence, even artificially, beyond what makes sense, is just technique. It's just technique. And if somebody witnesses me using my technique and they think I'm a narcissist, again, it's the observer problem.